for our next example, I would like to take an example from the world of business that you should already be familiar with. I'd like to discuss with you a marginal revenue function. Now remember, marginal revenue is the derivative of the revenue function, and that the revenue function equals the total amount of revenue that you've taken in by selling a given product. In other words, if you've sold 20 products, it's the total amount of revenue you've taken in by selling those 20 products. Here's our revenue function. In this case, the marginal revenue, or the derivative of the revenue function, equals 40. Now, if the marginal revenue equals 40, that's, in common language, simply means that we're selling each product for $40 a piece. Now, I'd like to figure out the total amount of revenue I took in between the 10th and 20th items that we sold. Now, let's take a look then. To do that, we'll take the integral from 10 to 20 of our basic function, which is 40. Now, when we take the integral of 40, we end up with 40q. Now, this should make sense to you, frankly, because we're selling them at $40 a piece, times q, that would be the number of them you've sold, would give you the total amount of revenue that you've taken in. And in other words, 40q is actually our revenue function. And we're going to evaluate that between 10 and 20. Now remember, our units if we want the units of our integral, we take the units of our dependent variable times our independent variable. Or in this case, our marginal revenue was $40 a piece, remember? So $40 per unit, or in this case, just generically, dollars per unit, times Q, which is always our number of units. In this case, our units cancel, and we're left with dollars. So of course, our revenue function would be in dollars, as you would expect it to be. In this case, again, we're going to take our function, which I've integrated, and evaluate it between 10 and 20. So in this case, I would plug in my 20, which would give me 40 times 20, or 800, minus 40 times 10, which is 400. Now what we're in essence saying is that if we had sold 20 products, we would have taken in a total of $800. Had we sold 10 products, we would have taken in a total of $400. Taking the difference between those two gives me $400, which would by definition be the growth that took place between the 10th and 20th product sale, but in this case is telling us the total amount of sales that took place between the 10th and 20th items.